The US economy is preparing to get into a stagflation, and a stagflation is way worse than a recession. Last time the US economy went into a stagflation, it lasted for more than 10 years. And a stagflation usually crushes the economy because this is the situation where the economy is not growing, which means that your wages are stagnant, but on the other side, prices are rising. So a 10 years of stagflation instantly turns into a complete catastrophe for any economy. Now, this is usually how the economy works. Demand pushes prices higher and higher. And that is a healthy sign of a healthy economy. Because when prices are rising, that means that people have jobs, people have paychecks, they're spending money. And because they're spending money, prices are growing. And because prices are growing, the GDP is growing. So overall, you want to see some kind of an increase in prices. But if that increase in prices is actually being pushed by a real demand, the real problem comes is that when prices are rising, but the economy is not growing, can something like that happen? Well, it has already happened historically in the United States. When you see around and the price of everything is continuously keeping rising, but your income is not rising. And why your income is not growing? Because the overall economy is not growing. Or maybe prices are simply rising way faster than the real size of the economy. Last time the United States experienced something like that was during 1960s and 1970s. So the United States in 1971 abandons the gold standard, and the US dollar instantly loses a lot of its value. Suddenly, the price of gold shoots to the roof. It rises by about 500%. So prices instantly rise. Now, if you're back in 1970s, do you think that your employer called you and told you, listen, just because the prices have risen, we decided that we're going to grow your paycheck? Of course, that did not happen. Prices rise on the other side, but wages didn't rise much because prices did not rise as a result of a healthy demand, but prices have risen because there has been a lot of devaluation of the dollar. But abandoning the gold standard simply was one of many reasons why we had a stagflation back in 1970s. There was an oil embargo. So there was a crisis in the Middle East, and Middle Eastern countries, who were the largest oil exporters in the world, decided that we're not going to sell oil to anybody that is going to support Israel in the war that was happening in Middle East. Suddenly, oil prices shot to the roof, which means that the cost of everything was driven higher. So when you go to the grocery store and you buy something, that something is in your grocery store because it was moved from one place into another. It might have originated from outside the United States. So there is always a transportation cost. When oil prices rise, the cost of transportation instantly rises, which means that there is inflation. Now, the question is, did prices rise because there has been a healthy demand, or prices rose just because the cost of delivering that good to your house has just risen? Of course, it is the latter. The third one is a war. The United States has been engaged in a very destructive war in Vietnam. That war has been so huge that the United States had to deplete a lot of its resources. So wars always cause stagflation because think about that for a moment. You are spending so much time and you are producing a weapon. Let's say that you have produced a missile. Now this missile goes into a war and it explodes. Now what happened to your productivity? It was evaporated. So basically, we're working so hard manufacturing stuff that are going to be devastated anyways. So we're basically working super hard, but we're not growing the economy because we're basically destroying what we have built. And the war in Vietnam has lasted for about 15 years, which is why it caused an increase in prices, but the real size of the economy did not grow. The war also caused a deficit. Now, a deficit is inflationary by itself. A deficit means that you are basically borrowing money because you cannot possibly afford it. When you cannot possibly afford your lifestyle and you get yourself a paycheck, or you get yourself an auto loan or a mortgage to buy a house, it is not necessarily inflationary because you're not the one who is actually creating the dollars. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the US government and you have basically ability to create money. So you cannot possibly borrow dollars from somebody. It is you who is the source of the dollar. So when the US government actually borrows money, the Federal Reserve usually prints money out of nothing. So because the government is running a deficit, the supply of dollars is rising the economy. So when too many dollars are chasing the exact same amount of goods in the economy, prices are rising. Now, the question is to you. Do you think prices have risen because the real size of the economy is growing, because we became more productive, or because there are simply too many dollars in the economy? So a huge deficit always causes a lot of inflation, which leads the economy to a stagflation. And finally, there has been a lot of competition from Germany and Japan. So if you just zoom out and you look at the US economy from a further perspective, you can see that from 1945 to 1970, the United States was this country that was basically manufacturing everything. So if you wanted the most advanced cars, you will buy them from the US. If you wanted the most advanced machinery, you will buy them from the US. Because Europe was distracted as a result of World War II, Japan was devastated. In fact, Japan faced 2 nuclear bombs. But starting from 1960s, Germany and Japan emerged as the countries that could compete with the United States when it comes to manufacturing. So suddenly jobs started getting out of the United States because manufacturing jobs now were going back to other nations such as Japan and Germany. In fact, Japan was so fast at reconstructing its economy and competing with the United States that Japan literally won over the US market, and the US car manufacturers could not even compete with Japan. So the US economy basically stopped growing at the rate that it had before Japan was rising. And these reasons basically caused prices to rise dramatically, and there was a huge slowdown in the US economy. And now let's come back to 2026, and you will see that the exact same story is playing back. So first of all, there is an oil shock. Oil prices have gone from less than $50 to almost $100. There is literally a 63% increase, and this is just 1 week of a war in Iran. This price could easily go to 100%, maybe 200%. So now you have to ask yourself a question. How will oil prices keep impacting the global inflation, especially the inflation in the US? So going back to 1970s, there has been an oil shock. So it led to higher oil prices, which led to higher inflation. And this time it is not going to be any different. Now, you could make the argument that the United States is self-sufficient when it comes to oil, because if you just look at the list of the largest oil producers in the world, you'll see the United States at the top of the list. But the oil market is just one giant market. So if global oil prices rise, the US oil prices are going to rise. So suddenly you're going to have a lot of inflation. Now, the second thing is that now, there is a war in the Middle East, which is the main reason why there is an increase in oil prices. Oil prices are usually driven by futures. So just because there is a war, it doesn't mean that suddenly everybody is massively buying oil, because it is impossible to buy that much oil. Because oil is a very difficult commodity, it must be extracted, refined, and then shipped. But you can buy futures. A future is basically a contract that says that I will buy a certain amount of oil at certain time in the future at a specific price. So if I believe that oil prices are going to rise, let's say to $150 because of the war in Iran, what I will do is that I will literally just pull out my phone and I will start buying futures of oil, which means that it will guarantee me that I can lock in the price for $91. So because of this financial instrument that we have called the futures, it allows everybody in the market instantly buy these futures. And these futures instantly create like unreasonable demand for oil, which means that oil prices instantly spike, which is why oil prices are rising way faster. They're not rising because there is an instant shortage of oil in the market. They're rising because there is so much fear in the market about what might happen to the future price of oil. Now, secondly, the war with Iran is actually creating the broken window fallacy. The economy and the GDP is a very interesting phenomenon because it is the main metric that we use to measure the size of the economy. So if you look at the United States, it has a GDP of more than $30 trillion. And then if we want to compare the United States to China, we look at the Chinese GDP. But what is a GDP? Like a GDP, if you literally just narrow down the definition, is basically how much money we are spending. So in the country that you're spending the most amount of money, the GDP grows the fastest. If you're not spending much money, then the economy is not growing much fast. So if I have $100 and I spend $100 buying a phone or buying a service or treating myself in a restaurant, now that $100 is waiters or the owner of that restaurant's paycheck. That person is going to spend that money, and that money keeps circulating. So overall, the more money circulates in the economy, the faster the economy grows. But the broken window fallacy says that just because we're spending money, it doesn't mean that the real economy is growing. It can create inflation, but at the same time, the economy is not growing. So imagine I have a store and my store has windows. If you come and break the window of my store, now, from the perspective of GDP, it's a good thing because now I will hire a contractor to fix the window in my store and I will pay him, let's say, $100. The contractor will take $100 and will go to Walmart and get himself some groceries. The money will end up in Walmart. Walmart will spend that money on something else and so on and so forth. Now, this is going to grow the GDP. But if we just stop for a moment and think about it, did the real size of the economy grow? No. My window was broken. Now, I spent money fixing the window. That money, I could have spent it on something else that would have improved my life. So that creates inflation without a real growth, even though that GDP has actually increased. Thirdly, it has created a logistics shock. The global economy is interconnected when everything moves from one place into another. And whenever there are problems in global logistics, prices instantly going to rise. So for example, ships that are moving from one part into another part of the world, they have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. For example, the oil that comes from Middle East. Not just the oil, anything that comes from Middle East. But this war is not just impacting the Strait of Hormuz, but rather it is also impacting the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. So the ships that are moving from China and they have to go to the European Union and then maybe from the European Union into the United States, they go through the Red Sea and then the Suez Canal and they will get into Europe and the Mediterranean Sea. But if there is a conflict in the Red Sea and they cannot possibly pass that, they will have to take a longer route through the entire Africa, now which means that they have to spend a lot more money on fuel. Because these oceans right now and these seas are now not safe, they have to spend money on insurance because the likelihood of your ship to be shot by a rocket and a missile right now in those areas are much higher, so the insurance cost is a lot more expensive, which means that there is an additional cost that is going to come with more fuel and more insurance cost. There is also an aviation shock. Middle East is a huge part of the world. It might not seem big on the map, but if you literally just put that Middle East, it's much larger than Europe, or maybe as big as Europe. So there is aviations that are flying, and these countries are, let's say, logistical hubs, airport hubs. So planes are stopping there to refuel and then move with their path to the rest of the world. And now because there are missiles all around that place, that means that you cannot possibly stop or fly around that place. So it creates an additional problem because the first problem was that Russia has closed its aerospace to Western airlines and to Western logistics, which means that now you have literally more than a third of the entire world where you cannot possibly fly, which instantly raises the cost of aviation. And the United States imports over $4 trillion worth of goods. If the cost of the $4 trillion worth of goods is going to rise, now it is going to create inflation. That inflation is going to go through the entire economy and will impact the price of everything. Suddenly, building houses is going to become more expensive. Building cars is more expensive. Building whatever is going to become more expensive. And finally, wars create deficit. If politicians would come and say that we're going to start a war in Middle East, but we need money, so we are going to raise taxes, I don't think anybody is going to agree to that. So they have found a much clever way to finance the wars. We are simply going to borrow money to finance the war. Nobody's going to pay attention to that because we're not raising taxes instantly. But deficit means that if the government will struggle to pay off this debt, it means that the Federal Reserve will have to do quantitative easing. So deficits, as we have discussed earlier, raise the supply of money and they create inflation. That's why inflation is always called as the hidden tax. So these three forces, just like in 1970s, are actually creating inflation while not actually growing the economy. And that's the situation that we call in economics stagflation. Now, this creates a huge dilemma for the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was created to control the economy or control the currency. So here's the job of the Federal Reserve. We have the US dollar, and we want the US dollar to keep its value and to have a targeted inflation of 2%. That means that prices should not rise more than 2%. And the economy goes through the cycles. So for example, we lower down interest rates and now the cost of borrowing is a lot more cheaper. So the economy grows. When the economy grows too fast and prices, let's say, rising are too fast and inflation is, let's say, more than 3% or 4%, the Federal Reserve will look at this and they're like, wait a second, that is not sustainable and we are going to raise interest rates. Now, the cost of borrowing becomes more expensive. That is going to slow down demand. When there is not much demand, prices are no longer rising that fast. But if there is no such huge demand, then the economy is going to slow down. So inflation is going to come down and the economy is going to slow down. When inflation has reached a targeted of 2%, then the Federal Reserve can now again lower down interest rates and we are going to go through another cycle. And so on and so forth. Overall, the economy is growing and the value of the dollar is stable. Now, the current situation creates a huge problem for the Fed because, first of all, the economy is actually slowing down. Look at the number of jobs. So, the jobs report is the most important indicator that tells us about the health of the economy, if the economy is growing or it's not growing. Why do we pay such a huge attention to the jobs report? Because if people have jobs, they have incomes. If they have incomes, they have money to spend. If they're making money, then the economy is growing. Vice versa. If people don't have jobs, they don't have money, so they're not spending, so the economy slows down. If you look at this graph, you can see that the number of jobs that the economy is adding has gone down substantially. And in February of last year or February of this year in 2026, the US has lost 92,000 jobs. And just by looking at the numbers since the end of 2024, you can say that the economy is actually doing a terrible job and the Fed should lower down interest rates so that the economy starts growing again. This is a clear sign of a recession. Like the jobs report is the best indicator to know if we are having a recession. So the Fed should lower interest rates. But there is another problem. There is a war. There is a deficit. There are all these reasons that we discussed that are going to shoot prices and are causing massive inflation. But if there is inflation, then we should hike interest rates. So imagine you're the chairman of the Fed and you have this dilemma. What do? Should you lower rates or should you hike rates? Because the economy is slowing down, but inflation is rising. So the Federal Reserve was not created to have such a problem. The Federal Reserve was created to lower interest rates when there is a recession and increase interest rates when inflation is getting out of control. Which is why when we have such a situation in the economy, we call that a stagflation. Higher rates won't let the real economy to grow, which means that there is going to be a stagnant economy. And even if the war is over, it is going to take some time for the economy to heal. So I don't know how long the war in Iran is going to last. It easily could last months, maybe over a year, which means that we are going to have a year of high inflation because the entire year we're going to have higher oil prices, we're going to have huge deficit. And that's why if you're a rich person right now, what do? You're looking at all of this and you understand that we have all the signs of a stagflation. And if you want to profit out of it, then as a rich person, as a millionaire, you have to prepare yourself to take advantage out of it. During any kind of wars and financial crises, there are always winners and there are always losers. So if you want to know what are the top 5 stocks that you should be buying right now to win from this stagflation, then check out the Investing Academy. The link is going to be in the description of this video.